Hello? Success? Okay, great. Ready? So, in the age of AI, the idea of who we are feels increasingly unsettled. When we say person, what do we mean? Do we mean the body? Its shape, its face, its presence? Do we mean identity? The traits, roles, or attributes we associate with someone? And in a world where relationships are mediated through screens, how do we reconcile and integrate someone's physical being with their digital persona?
In her 2009 book, Bodies, psychoanalyst Susie Orbach explores how cultural and technological forces like cosmetics, fashion, surgery, and Photoshop have reshaped our relationship to the body, turning it to a site of anxiety, of regulation, of commercial manipulation. And for today, we thought her idea of fictive bodies felt particularly relevant to considerations of synthetic media. And in Orbach's words, we're managing two bodies, the body for broadcast and then the body in trainers and jogging pants without all the contouring. It's deception as a performance. As AI accelerates, should we worry about a deepening split between these two bodies? Orbach warns that the contemporary obsession with the digital modification of our own images risks severing us from that body's lived experience. She continues, it is as though we are expected to curate ourselves for display rather than inhabit ourselves as feeling beings.
Other theorists extend this argument into the economic sphere, showing how these pressures are tied to market logic and self-branding. In Psychopolitics, Byung-Chul Han suggests that the neoliberal subject is locked in a cycle of perpetual self-optimization. This aligns with Alison Hearn's description of self-branding as immaterial labor, requiring individuals to construct and perform these attractive identities to generate value. Today, TikTok filters, Snapchat AI filters, and synthetic voice tools further expand the gap between the lived self and the curated self. These tools are framed as fun or creative, but in practice they are often used to make our second, broadcast bodies appear stronger, more attractive, more perfect, distracting us then from our feeling bodies while imposing new, often unrealistic standards upon them. However, is the growing split between our physical being and our digital personas the only perspective to consider? What if these same tools could become gateways to new possibilities? To explore that, we'll walk through three examples, one from gender identity research, one from research on body image disturbance, and one from human-computer interaction.
So first, from gender identity research. In her book, I Heard Her Call My Name, Lucy Sante describes her journey to gender transition at age 67. She explains how FaceApp for her became what she calls a portal of self-recognition. We were interested in this idea that a simple filter helped her visualize and affirm her trans identity. And we were also interested to find that this phenomenon is echoed in recent scholarship. At the University of Michigan, researchers found that AR filters could act as what they called provisional mirrors for trans and gender diverse participants. They were ways to see oneself otherwise, imagine alternative futures, and glimpse a self that may feel more aligned with their identity. These perspectives suggest that synthetic media can function perhaps as accessible technologies of affirmation, enabling moments of joy, possibility, and recognition that would otherwise remain out of reach.
A second example comes from research on body image disturbance. At Tsinghua University, researchers tested whether deepfakes could help change how people felt about their appearance. They used the ZAO app to merge participants' faces onto celebrities, creating short video clips of what they are considering in this context a more attractive self. What they found was that seeing these deepfaked versions increased the participants' satisfaction with their own real faces and bodies. Synthetic media, then, in this light, can act not as a trigger for insecurity, but as a tool for its repair.
And our third example today emerges from a human-computer interaction study where virtual doubles were tested as tools for self-compassion. At the CHI 2025 conference, researchers tested whether AI-generated replicas of one's own voice could help someone move closer to what they termed their ideal self. They cloned each participant's voice, and they used it to deliver short affirmations, encouragements, motivating phrases. And what they found, perhaps unsurprisingly, was that even though the experience did feel uncanny, hearing a kinder version of themselves in their own voice helped participants move toward their goals. This finding resonates also with decades of psychological and neurological research that positive self-talk pings all the right parts of the brain. It can boost focus, motivation, mood, performance.
And in addition to changing how we see ourselves, experiments with a phenomenon known as the Proteus effect show that the traits of our digital avatars can shape our interactions with others. In these studies, people embodying avatars with particular traits, taller, more attractive, more dominant, adjusted their own behavior to align with those appearances. So, users negotiated more confidently, interacted more sociably, and altered how they approached others. The Proteus effect shows us that avatars are not just costumes, but relational cues, shaping how we see ourselves and how we connect with other human beings.
And so we wanted to return to Susie Orbach's bodies. In the book, Orbach warns that the struggle is to recorporealize our bodies so that they become a place we live from rather than an aspiration always needing to be achieved. However many identities we may try on online, she reminds us that we cannot live in the material world without bodies. So might we see filters, avatars, AI faces as performances and rehearsals, spaces for experimentation where identity can be tested, new selves may be tried on, hidden desires may be revealed or surfaced. And seen in this light, synthetic media becomes less a counterfeit of the self than a practice of self-making. And of course, identity has always been performed. It's a process of staging, negotiation, experimentation, as opposed to a fixed essence.
And we're mindful that these ideas at their core are not new. In the presentation of self in everyday life from 1956, Irving Goffman wrote, "The self, then, is a performed character. It is not an organic thing. It is a dramatic effect arising diffusely from a scene that is presented." And so, we return to the question that we began with. When we say person, what do we mean? To continue with Goffman, it is probably no mere historical accident that the word person, in its first meaning, is a mask. It is rather a recognition of the fact that everyone is always and everywhere, more or less consciously, playing a role. It is in these roles that we know each other. It is in these roles that we know ourselves. In a sense, and insofar as the mask represents the conception we have formed of ourselves, the role we are striving to live up to, the mask is our truer self, the self we would like to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys can sit down there at the end.